while. I hope the connection is not going to back up today with this weather. Okay, the recording has started. Right.
Thank you, Sonja Lachlan, our presenter for the day. Good morning, or no, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, Sonja. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gino Fransman, and there's Angelo Meyers from the George campus. Want to say hello, Angelo?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and the three of us will be your facilitators there. Angelo, if you look in the thing there, I'm just changing that person also from presenter, so that's fine. So we are here today to facilitate a session on APA 7th edition, referencing and writing, how to attribute other people's work in your own writing, which literally as researchers, as fledgling or experienced academics, that's your job, is to use other people to make your point in academic writing. But when you make the point using their writing, you have to acknowledge their writing. So, of course, these people don't make it easy for you. They write in different formats, in different places. It's published in different spaces, literally, right? It can be a journal, a book, online in a web article. It can be a newspaper article that you see, something you saw on TV, a video recording, an image, a graph, a data. You need to be able to say where all of that comes from, right? And in APA 7th edition, there are specific conventions. And when we say conventions, it's basically rules, okay, that you have to follow. These are not negotiable. These are basically rules of the road, and your road that you travel, you need to go through the APA driving test. Okay, so we are here to facilitate your license basically. And Ms. Sonja Lachlan has been here for 10 years now, right, Sonja?
Yep.
10
Indeed.
years, and she's been doing this. If you can see my screen, here's a quick introduction to Miss Lachlan. Sonja, is it okay if we call you Sonja?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm not
and
great on
likewise,
formalities.
and likewise for me also. Like I know, like a lot of people put their sir, and it's always nice to be called sir. But you can call me Gino in this,
Yes,
right? When
you
you're
may call
asking
me
questions
Sonja.
in the chat, and you can say Angelo, right, or Ange, A-N-G, like Ange. But what we're here to do is we're here to assist Sonja as she goes through a PowerPoint, and you will get a copy of this PowerPoint. Okay, so don't stress, and you don't have to ask about all of that again. You will have a copy of that PowerPoint. You will have a copy of this recording because it's on Teams, it's being recorded. So you get the recording, you get the questions, you get the responses to those questions in the chat after this is done. But while this is going on, please, we are encouraging you to thumbs up, thumbs down, ask a question, and Angelo and I will try to facilitate either in the chat, or I will ask Sonja to just take a break, take a quick pause, and to respond to your question in that moment. If it's questions you have towards the end, we'll do a batch of questions at the end, and we'll have a conversation, right? Because this is very much a two-way communication. You are going to have questions. There are going to be some confusions or some challenges. And we want to let you leave here without any confusion or challenges. So, about our presenter today for the Academic Literacies Writing Programme referencing session. Notice it's not the Writing Center anymore, okay? We've evolved, like APA is on 7th edition now. The Writing Center is now Academic Literacies Writing Programme. So Sonja's been involved with Academic Literacies Writing Programme here at Nelson Mandela in University in Port Elizabeth since August 2014. Yeah, that is 10 years. Huh?
Exactly.
And she joined my team. So I was really, really happy. Sonja was the first person I appointed when I got here in 2014 as well. I got here in June 2014. So I was really, really impressed with this lady who came in asking like, hey, I want to help students. So she's a contract lecturer with the Department of Applied Language Studies now since 2018, and she works at Varsity College since 2016. I know lots of students who've had the benefit of working with Sonja. She developed a passion for academic literacies and started lecturing. So there she especially saw the need for extra support in academic writing and referencing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and just like let you know something also. We have several support sessions for students, for lecturers, and like we say, students are researchers, right? So our sessions here are to support academic writing. We don't actually edit work. And I know lots of students ask us, hey, can you edit my work? Or they're submitting a treatise and it's like, hey, can you edit this? We don't edit because your job is to put your point across using other people's work. Our task, right, is to help you to do so. So we can't do it for you because that's not helping. That's basically cheating, right? So we help to develop your academic writing proficiency. And Sonja here today is going to show what 10 years of experience doing this at this level with thousands of you as students or researchers or educators along the way has now become such a streamlined process and presentation. And again, I just want to say thank you to Sonja for all the work that's gone here. She's just put everything together into what is now such a beneficial session for students. Remember, you will have the PowerPoint, you will have this recording, you will have the transcript and the chat. Okay, and if you have any questions, pop them into the chat, and we'll engage. From my side, I'm going to hand over to Sonja now. Angela and I are going to put our mics and our cameras off. Um, from for now, like I have one question to you while Sonja says her beginning of her presentation. Where are you joining us from? Put it in the chat, please. Over to you, Sonja. Thank you.
Thank you, Juno and Angelo, for joining the session, and everybody else that's here today. Thank you very much. Just I'm going to disable my camera just now. I just wanted to say thank you for the introduction. So it's a very basic workshop, if we can put it like that. Then to start off with the beginning step. So if you have a more sophisticated need, if I can put it like that, put that in your chat as well. Maybe there's postgrad students that have more complex needs, literally. The other thing is also, besides telling us where you're from, just what basic needs do you have regarding academic writing, academic your journey in academics. So, like Gino has said, this is, like you said, literally a driving course basically that you have to go through. But all in all, the first day that you entered the university or the institution, doesn't matter where you are and from what university, it's literally it's a journey of becoming an academic. So we all, when you have joined the first day, even if you're first year, you are becoming an academic. So, or you are an academic, you've started your journey here. And we all should follow certain rules, obviously, that are set out by all academic institutions. All right, I'm going to just disable my camera. I'm going to share my screen. Not sure if you can see it.
Yes, we do.
Unfortunately, I've just got thank you, Gina. I've just got the PDF version. Somehow along the line, I've just lost my PowerPoint. I really don't know where it's gone to, but I've looked everywhere. So sorry, I'm just going to have to use the PDF version for today. All right, so obviously we are working with APA 7th edition today. And yes, the APA is extremely beneficial in the sense of it's globally set in stone. So not unlike Harvard, where there's several versions, and you really feel that when, number one, when we at I think at the Academic Literacies Writing Programme see the different versions, and you get to deal with that. The other thing is also through my lecturing experience with different institutions, you can see the differences. However, APA is set in stone, and that is a lovely feature of APA. So APA has changed, I think it's around 2019, I'm not 100% sure, from 6th edition to 7th edition. I do know that I have had students and groups of students before that still use the 6th edition. And I'm not 100% sure if that's still the case, but up to last year, I still encountered groups that could choose between the two, or still using 6th edition, maybe started off and they're now in their postgrad studies. However, this is very much based on the 7th edition. I have a link in here that show the differences, but I'm not, obviously, I don't think there will be time, but you can always access afterwards and go and look. Also, the links, the sources that I'm going to provide, you will see it explains the differences between 6th edition and 7th edition. For our purposes, we're moving forward in future, and we stick to APA 7th edition. All right, so there's a couple of things that's connected to referencing that we cannot disconnect. It's all part of a system to avoid plagiarism. We have to, when we deal with referencing, we have to deal with paraphrasing, we have to deal with plagiarism. We have to look at it because all in all, it falls under this whole thing called plagiarism that we threaten students about with, and all kinds of things that can happen, and penalties and whatever. So we need to understand, and I need to make sure that students do understand, my own students and any other students, that they specifically know what plagiarism is all about. So usually when I ask, what is plagiarism? Then students would say it's copying, pasting, or it's not acknowledging sources, all right? Yes, obviously that is a huge part of what plagiarism is. However, it's not the only thing. There are several factors that come into play that's involved in plagiarism. NMU has a specific policy on plagiarism, which is called the Policy for the Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism. And it states on page, I think, 8 and 9 of this policy exactly, or a couple of examples of plagiarism, yet not all of them. I'm not going to go over these. You can access it as well. You can access the policy, I'm pretty sure, on the intranet and so on. This is obviously a policy that was put in place traditionally before the use of AI. In the meantime, the university has issued guidelines towards how to deal with generative AI and so on top of this policy. Just something that I need you to take note of is number 3 here, translating the text. All right, so often students would say, number 1, if I paraphrase, I don't need to reference. That's the one thing I often hear. It's written then in my own words, or then a translation. A translation means that I have written it now, or I've translated into my own words. It's not the original words anymore. So that is the important factor that I need when we deal with a little bit, just touching on paraphrasing, is that always remember, you are not taking the words of a source, and that is where the confusion comes in with paraphrasing, is that people want to take the direct words and paraphrase it. You are taking the idea, you are using the idea, and you write it into your own words, building your own argument. And that is the difference. Once you understand the difference in that, you will understand how to build your own argument and to paraphrase better. So the fact of the matter is, if you translate a text, you will clearly, you should know then, you are still using the idea of the source, whether you write it in whatever language, is the idea, it's not the words. You need to reference it. So without, if you don't cite the source where this translated piece comes from, it is obviously plagiarism. So plagiarism means various things. It means that you might have paraphrased something beautifully, but you didn't cite or acknowledge the source in the text. In APA, we have to acknowledge the source in the text, and we have to have a reference list at the end of the document with a paraphrase. And Say for instance, you've in-text referenced perfectly fine, and there's a reference list, and everything is perfectly fine, but the text was copied and pasted and not paraphrased, and it's not a direct quote, or you've got many direct quotes already, it cannot be another direct quote, then that would obviously be plagiarism. When you work together with other students and a collaboration, say in a group assignment or something like that, and students break away and they submit that work that you have done together as their own, that is a collusion, and that is also a form of plagiarism. These things do exist. It's happened to students of mine before. So yes, images, music, YouTube clips, all kinds of things, conference proceedings, master's thesis that you find published or unpublished, you have to reference it. Right, we're going to leave it there. Just to touch on the forms of plagiarism, because it is important, and I see these things with my own students. I encounter it all the time, and you see it more and more and more. So obviously you're all aware of the use of generative AI as creating or generating an assignment or an essay or piece of writing for you is not allowed then literally, and we would then consider that as global plagiarism. So I would say traditionally global plagiarism would be, that you ask somebody to write an essay on your behalf. Previously on the internet, you got people like that, and then you paid them for that, but it's not your own work. The other thing also before AI, I would say Studico and Course Hero are platforms where students can, and the problem is with these things is when you research a topic on the internet, on Google, for instance, it often produces content from Studico or Course Hero. And that is and students not knowing that they're not allowed to use these things, that is they go to, because they are platforms where students sell their assignments or so their course notes or whatever to this platform. And then when you Google that topic, exactly the same topic or topics that have been done, around this before, then all of a sudden you use this information and it's not credible content. So just remember, for those who are familiar with Studico, Course Hero, there are other platforms where students submit their assignments. It's not, you cannot use it as your own. It is Turnitin picks it up. So it literally takes me to the link to Studico. So sometimes also when you provide the URL, it states the Studico. So as soon as I see that, I know where that content comes from. And it's either the whole essay or it's been used as a source. So please, guys, also don't use it as sources. It's not credible content. It is stuff that wasn't published. In other words, even if a knowledgeable student wrote this assignment and sold it to this platform and you use it, it's not credible content. We will talk about that later. I will give you, hopefully there's time to give you a couple of examples on credibility of sources and so on. I spent a little bit of time on this because I need you to understand that this form of plagiarism is severe, and it depends obviously of all the penalties and how you will be penalized when you are caught out to use this type of thing. Also then when AI generates an essay and you use it and you copy and paste it literally from ChatGPT and you put it into your own document, it would be global plagiarism. Again, Turnitin picks it up. It picks up percentages of AI generated content, which could then also entail the use of paraphrasing tools like Quillbot, using Grammarly as a paraphrasing tool, using ChatGPT as a paraphrasing tool, things like that. All of that will be picked up. All right. We will, I'm not going to spend too much time on AI. This is not what the workshop is all about. However, just make sure that also you are allowed to use Grammarly to check your spelling and punctuation and all that. Yes, Gino, I knew you're going to come in here.
Yeah, thank you, Sonja. Yes,
Yeah.
I think the fact that you've now like reiterated a few times like the importance of like just understanding what plagiarism is and the consequences of it, like for students, for researchers, but also educators, right? And I'd just like to put this caution because I'm the platform administrator for Grammarly for the institution, right? So there are some features on the institutional Grammarly, and you are all able to request access to the premium version of Grammarly. Angelo put the link in the chat before, by the way. But there's just a concern from our side that while some of the platforms don't have the ability to pick up certain forms of plagiarism right now, right? Everything that you are submitting to the university goes onto the database, and that database is constantly being updated with new software, with new patches basically that look at the work as a total bunch of information or data documents sitting on the website. So even though we've checked this year for what's coming in 2024 with the technology from 2024, that doesn't stop it from now you graduate and it's 2025 and we upgrade the software and it still looks at all of the documents there. And it might just find out that you did plagiarize, and what then happens for your professional career, for your reputation, because then we come from behind and we say, hey, but you did copy. So that's going to pull in or put into question your actual degree. So be very careful. This is not something to play around with. This is why we are doing this and why we are being so careful about putting all of these possibilities out there so that people know how to do it properly and don't find themselves in a situation 5 years down the line, oh, you forged your matric certificate, right? You've seen that happening. It's very possible that's coming in future for a lot of others. Just be careful. Back to you, Sonja.
Thank you, Gino. Yes, that is it's vital, guys. We can't. It's exactly what Gino said. Don't play around with your own education here and your future. All right, just on that, patchwork plagiarism would be, and I'm going to just jump in here with my little screenshot quickly. Just showing you. So this is a snippet from an actual Turnitin assignment or essay of one of my students. Obviously, there's no names involved, so don't worry about that. So I just want you to see this. This would be then patchwork plagiarism, but I have to consider these are law students. They you don't paraphrase legislation. So where it's referred here to the Convention of Elimination of blah blah whatever, it's not something that you can paraphrase. The other pieces are incremental pieces. This green piece number 23 here, yes, could be this is a sentence that could have been paraphrased. But all in all, there's a 28 plagiarism percent similarity. I have to really go and look, is this really plagiarism, and so on. This wasn't really a concern regarding plagiarism, but and this is what students can't see on Turnitin, you can see that red block here on the right hand side, the 28, and you can see where the pieces were marked for plagiarism. However, what was added on was right on the bottom, this AI little block, the 42% AI generation. So once I click on that, you get a report from Turnitin that shows this. So the blue marked pieces here would be then, which is considered AI generation. So this is a group assignment. I'm just showing you this. If you and it's very important that students see this because you can't see this on your side. So if you keep on saying, "Oh, we can see AI," you maybe think, "Okay, well, no, this is nonsense because I can't see it." This is exactly what it looks like on our side. So because it's a group assignment, I am assuming that the person that did this piece marked in blue used AI of whatever sort. Doesn't matter what they've used. It doesn't. It's not acceptable. Okay, so just that to show you an example of what it would look like through Turnitin. Turnitin, like Gina has said, All these platforms are being upgraded to go with how the AI is also going forward. So that it's not going to stay behind. It's going to get better at that as well. So that is to do with patchwork plagiarism. My concern for that assignment, and I send it back to the students, was obviously the use of AI there. Incremental would be small little pieces like the little snippet here that I showed you. I would really have to look at this and see, is it really like it's little, like the legislation, yeah, for instance, the Domestic Violence Act. I can't consider that as plagiarism. So we have to considerately look at this and as a lecturer and go see, okay, well, is it really plagiarism or not? So don't always just think we look at the percentages, or lecturers look at the percentages. It's, you have to go and look at what was marked. However, keep your nose clean. That is the best policy. Self-plagiarism means that when you are going to publish, one day, if you do your master's, or your PhD, and you write articles and you want to refer to yourself, remember you become part of the knowledge basis in whatever you're writing about in your discipline. So you're not you as the person anymore. You are part of that knowledge base of the source, and you have to reference yourself. Okay, so there's all kinds of policies and guidelines that the university has issued earlier this year regarding the use of AI. Not going to go into that. Every school or department has put these guidelines in place. On Moodle, they are there as well. I've seen them, so students have access to it. You can go and read that. The only thing is here, you need to, whenever you use AI, even now for the use of Grammarly, because Grammarly is an AI tool and can be picked up by Turnitin, you have to be very transparent of what you are using and what you have used. If you use ChatGPT for your planning and structure, or clarifying of concepts, or generating key ideas or something like that, you need to be transparent, and this is the way that you have to, and you have to reference it as well. ChatGPT, for instance, is a product of OpenAI. This is how you have to refer to it. It's also in the link, I think, that I'm going to share with you. Why students plagiarize? Obviously, there's several reasons. The use of AI is unfortunately not at all unintentional. There's a very deliberate act behind using AI, so we can't see that as an unintentional type of error that's been made. However, just traditional type of forms of plagiarism could be because a student doesn't have enough research skills, doesn't have knowledge. And we often find that I struggle with referencing, and nobody helps me, because everybody just tells us about plagiarism, but nobody helps us. And this is why we are doing this, to help students and educate you more in these types of things. So there's just a couple of reasons. Temptation, for instance, time management skills, all kinds of things. All right. I've spoken about being deliberate, and so because of the previous slide, actually, because of the unintentional factor that is involved often with plagiarism. I don't mean AI now, I mean plagiarism, where students didn't reference or didn't paraphrase effectively or so. It could be then, there is obviously most of the time students don't do it intentionally. However, it is still something that has to be learned, a skill that has to be learned, and that you have to be able to do in the end as an academic person. So all of you are academics that started your journey, and you need to learn that skill. So just back on the AI, you will never learn the skill if you keep on using AI, never. And somewhere along the line in your job environment, you are still going to need, often many of these work environments, you're still going to have to need your academic writing skills that you're learning now. In other words, you need to paraphrase, you need to research, you need to reference, and all those things. If you write business reports, for instance, if you all kinds of things. I've always used the example recently. I think a couple of weeks ago, a judge and two lawyers were fired because they used AI to generate court proceedings. So yes, you're not allowed to do that. As a person out there, there are going to be things that's going to happen in your life if you haven't learned your proper academic writing skills. So make sure that you do know what to do and how to do it. It all boils down also to the factor of honesty and dishonesty. I'm not going to speak about that, about integrity and academic integrity. How to avoid plagiarism would be, like I said right in the beginning, it's all interconnected. Plagiarism goes with the fact that you have to paraphrase effectively in your own words and not use a paraphrasing tool or use an AI tool to generate it for you. And that paraphrase, whether it's a direct quote or a paraphrase, you need to have an in-text reference for it, and you need to have a reference list. Those are the three factors that you need to have at all times to avoid plagiarism. And that is what we're going to look at, obviously, today. Other types of things that I can say then about avoiding plagiarism is proper time management. Because once you've run out of time, procrastination creates panic in the end, because you have to be organized, start early, the writing process must be planned properly to avoid that type of thing, or to avoid procrastination, and to also to be extremely organized. And it has all a place in your writing process. Recording of your sources immediately while you're doing your research, not afterwards to scatter around for references. No, either use an online referencing tool that you are allowed to use. For instance, Word's automatic referencing tool. As far as I know, the unfortunate thing is about that is that Word is a little bit outdated with these types of tools. It used to have 6th edition. So if you use, and there are differences, you will, and you use that tool, you will have to edit your references in the end, your reference list as well, because there are elements that were removed from 7th edition that's still there in 6th edition, and then you need to edit that. So whatever tool, Zoter or Cite for Me or Scribber or whatever referencing tool, just make sure that you record your references immediately, and that you don't have to go look for references afterwards. Paraphrasing, yes, Gino.
Sorry, Sonia. I know
No
that you're going to
worries.
come here at some point, but just because we have the Microsoft Word, so in APA there are like variations that once you've generated references via Microsoft Word, that you can then go back and do manually. Okay, it's like using a rubber on a pencil. Once you've written it and you see that there's something that needs to be changed, you can do so. Just remember that the one thing about referencing and about academic writing that we really look at is consistency. So if you're going to make one change, make sure that that change is consistent across your document. Because the last thing you want to do is to, for example, say, for example, and spell FOR space EXAMPLE, for example. Then the next time you say EG, then the next time you say E dot G, then the next time you say EG dot, you know, we will look at all of that. And because you haven't selected consistency across your referencing style in line with the convention, that's a penalty also, right? Consistency is key. But like Sonia says, it is your responsibility to get the latest updates and versions of software so that you are in line with APA 7th edition. So if we need to have a chat about that after this, I'm open to having that chat. Send me an email and I can take it forward. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, Gino. Yes, I'm definitely going to say a referencing tool is going to make your life so much easier. Again, like Gino has said, consistency is absolutely key. And if you are required, especially first years entering the sphere now, are required to use 7th edition. And if you use 6th edition, you didn't go into just that little bit of trouble to go and, like Gino said, you can manually edit it, but you have to consistently do it. You have to make sure that it's consistent throughout. And that is a major, major thing. Rather than, I would almost then say, use the older format consistently, and then, changing one thing and the other thing isn't, and so on. All right, we're going to move on. So a little bit of resources, we're not going to look at it now, but you can obviously follow the links and a little bit of information on how to avoid plagiarism. That brings us, obviously, when the need for effective paraphrasing is vital to avoid plagiarism, because you might not be intentionally meaning to plagiarize, but if you haven't paraphrased properly and effectively into your own words, it will then be plagiarism. Okay, so if you literally know that you copied and pasted from the internet and you didn't do anything differently or changed or whatever, then you know for sure that is intentional plagiarism. You cannot just copy and paste something and just put a reference there. You cannot do that. On direct quotes, we'll get to that. Obviously, if you do that and you use it as a direct quote, that would be acceptable. But 80% of 80 to 90% of your essay or your work must be paraphrased. In other words, your own work. So if you produce an essay that's just full of direct quotes, it's a severe form also of plagiarism, because it's somebody else's work still. So remember, when you're writing an essay, it must be your take, your viewpoint on the topic, your research that you've done, that you've built into your paragraphs, into your own words, building your own argument. So it's a whole process to show it's your work. Now, with the use of AI, that is taken away completely. In other words, you will never ever learn how to paraphrase or to build your own argument or write your own work. So paraphrasing means that you take the idea from a source and you build it into your paragraph to provide evidence for the argument that you are building. That is the idea around paraphrasing. So in the academic world, we are working mostly, I would say there are different types of essays that you will write, like argumentative types of essays for law students, or reflective essays for education students, but most of the time we deal with an expository or discursive essay where you look at objectively at both sides, or you objectively provide evidence for your point of view. So remember, we're not stating now, this is my opinion on something. You are making a claim and you bring in your sources, what you've read, and you bring in that evidence for that claim in that paragraph that you made. And that must be obviously paraphrased into your own words. So the very first step of paraphrasing is that you understand what you're reading. And yeah, I can refer you if you want to have a better understanding of what you have read, and you don't know anymore how to understand it. You can, I would say then, use ChatGPT there to clarify or simplify what you are reading. You can just not, there is really no blurred lines here. You can just not use that clarification or simplification either as a source, number one, or then copy and paste it and use it as your own work. There's no blurred lines there, but you can get a better understanding. So sometimes, well, often, academic material is difficult to understand, and that could be a way to alleviate that type of problem. All right, so you cannot move on to the rest of the phases to paraphrase if you haven't understood what you've read. And often when we review drafts, then that is very clear. The student hasn't understood and now they're trying to paraphrase it. Either it's just sole plagiarism, or it's the grammatical structure of the sentence is completely out, or it doesn't make sense, there's no coherence. So make sure that you understand before you even take that step of trying to paraphrase. In your process, your planning process of the essay, you need to highlight the main idea of your topic that you're writing about and several little ideas that go around that. And you focus on those ideas then to research, to go and look for material to research then. And while you're researching and reading, you must then lift out or highlight ideas that you can potentially use in your essay, all right, or in your paragraphs or whatever. So that is the next step, to highlight the main ideas. Again, we're not working using the words, we are working with the idea of the source. Then you need to know, and that is long before you've started the writing process. During your research process, you lift out the main ideas, you determine what do you want to do with these points specifically that you are highlighting or lifting out. Are you going to, are they going to support your argument? Are they going to contradict your argument? You need to know that beforehand, before you even started writing or paraphrasing. Then you look at what the author of the original source has, what was his or her objective or viewpoint towards the topic that you're writing about. Is it critical? Is it supportive? Is it neutral? It's important. Remember, we also refer to our sources just by using a surname, the surname of the author, no initials, no names, no titles whatsoever. Use reporting verbs that is simple, like state and argue, assert, declare, things like that people understand. If you use words like exuberate or purport or something like exuberate is something that's often used by AI. So if I see that word, I know immediately AI was used in some form. So don't use words that you don't understand. Use simple reporting verbs to refer to your authors in your in-text references, or then as part of your sentence to refer to your authors. Then write or paraphrase these ideas into your own words and build it into your argument. Okay. We always keep jargon unparaphrased. If I can put it like that, you don't paraphrase jargon or subject-specific jargon, terminology that's very specific about your discipline or your field of study. For example, in linguistics, in language acquisition, we deal with Chomsky's critical period, for instance. So critical period, I'm not ever going to paraphrase. It is a very specific terminology referring or that's used in linguistics, and that comes from Chomsky. So paraphrasing tools often paraphrase things like that, and then it sounds awkward. Like the term in education, you use the word scaffolding, and it's got a very specific meaning. You will never paraphrase that. You're not going to put it in inverted commas. It's something that you will use. And I'm going to say this again. Paraphrasing tools paraphrase those things, and then it sounds weird. So don't use paraphrasing tools because of the weirdness then. Okay. Then you need to be able to close the text. You need to keep the same meaning at all times. You can use whatever source is said for different purposes than what the author intended, but you cannot change the meaning. So you need to go check, or again, did you understand it correctly? And once you have understood correctly, once you've understood what you read and you know what you want to do it, you will be able to close the text and then write it in your own words and link it to your paragraph. For paraphrasing, yes, you can use synonyms. You can change word order. However, just copying and pasting a sentence and change one word with a synonym is not paraphrasing. It's still plagiarism. You can cut off sentences, for instance, and just change a little bit around in the sentence from your original source. That could help with paraphrasing. You can change an active voice sentence to passive voice or vice versa. And we generally would look at, and that this depends very much on an individual's lecturers or supervisors as well, that usually 6 words in a row we would not regard as plagiarism, but after that, yes, because often we start sentences in the same way, like for instance, this study discusses this and this and this. And then there will be similarities, obviously. So usually around 6 words is still fine, acceptable, but after that, it isn't anymore, and it is regarded as plagiarism. Yes, Gino.
Hi, Son. I think
Yes.
like a great point, and I think that when we go forward, we should actually put. If you can just go back to that previous slide, please.
Okay.
Thank you. If we can actually make like right here a practical, and we ask everyone, like we put 2 sentences down, and we say paraphrase these sentences, and put it in the chat, and then people have an opportunity maybe to to engage with us. I don't think that's the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
I'm also like just looking at this now because when we do paraphrase, how much of that is allowed? Like you were saying earlier on, 80% of the work needs to be paraphrased, right? And I think that we should also encourage people here to reach out to us again so that we can have some more engagements with people that are here, and have them join us in further sessions. Is it just me, or did we just? Oh no, it's there. My thing is saying like only one person now. Sorry. Back to you, Sonja. But this, I think, the paraphrasing tips. If we can at some stage generate some sort of a practical application of this here, it would be great.
Yes, yes. No, we can absolutely, sorry, do that. I used to have a little activity and whatever at the end, but we never get the chance in the end. The time runs out.
Time.
But yes,
Sorry.
that's maybe a good idea. Yes, Angelo.
Uh,
Mm. Yes, thank you, colleagues. And I just post open education resources exercise. So if the students can download this link, it is an exercise to practice paraphrasing. So you will have the questions and also the answers. So I would like to encourage the students to download this link and to practice the paraphrasing. It's a very, very useful tool.
Thank you,
Sonia, and
Angelo.
before we go on, there's a comment there as well. Shall I
Yes,
just read it to you because it's
yes,
right here in this
yes.
slide. So, um, oh, Ms. Ngobo says, this has been a very informative session, something that should be used as part of postgraduate orientation course. And she says they're compulsory with a smiley face. By the way, we do a postgrad orientation, and we do this with them. We also make sure that we have several sessions like this across the year. Okay, so thank you for saying this. She further says there's a huge gap from undergrad to honors, and when reading the research I supervise, I read from a point of knowing and can skip incorrect info at times because I read it the right way. Right way is in inverted commas. I'm interested to see like how we apply ourselves, like sort of the measurement of like whether something is right or wrong, because we're stepping into some tricky territory there. But I think that this is a great conversation, and we should speak about how do we look at students on undergrad versus on postgrad level, regarding referencing and potential plagiarism, or like we said, we speak about academic integrity, because when you get to postgrad level, that integrity should be a way of being. It shouldn't be a conversation or a start of a journey any longer. I don't know if there's a question there, but Sonia, I'm going to hand back to you.
Okay. Ms. Mkobo has got her hand up, but I think
Yeah, I don't know if she's got the ability to speak, like with a
not at this stage.
microphone.
I just want to on that also, I just want to say that yes, I do agree, and there is a huge gap between, because I don't think our students at undergrad level, sorry, is equipped properly to go over into honors or postgrad, because I see the troubles. And on that, on the master's workshops, if you have a need for us to come in, I'm currently, it's the second year that I've done, well, a couple of years now for pharmacy, but for the second year that for our department, applied linguistics, that I've was invited. And then next year we have to actually decided that I will use up the whole day and we will do practical stuff as well. So they invite me for the postgrad workshop to come and do a workshop with them, and that is applied linguistics. And the other faculty is pharmacy. I've been involved with pharmacies postgrad people now for 3 or so years. So they also separately contact me, and I speak to their students, and I come into and do workshops with the fourth years as well. So if you have a need, Gina will be with you now. If you have a need, just send me an email, and then we can do whatever we want to and spend as much time as you want to. We can clear a day or half a day, and we could do practical stuff and so on with him as well. So just, we're always available. Yes. Yes, Gina.
Yes, thank you, Son. Okay, Ms. Novo, I see that you've also put another response there. But what I'm going to do is I'm allowing your microphone. So just unmute yourself and speak to us, please. Yes, I see that you want the honors thing for next year is a good idea. And what I will try to do is also like to arrange a session like this for institutional wide. Okay, so we do the same thing, but then we focus it for certain groups. So we can do undergrad and we can do postgrad and look at the specificities of each of those sort of contingents. Over to you.
Okay, yes, thank you, Gino. So I
You're
think
welcome.
for me, I when I saw the memo for this, I decided to join because I wanted to see what information is being shared with regards to APA university wide. I do forward the emails to my students times, even though we all get them in the memo. And sometimes what I've picked up is a bit of a struggle when you are supervising the research. You focus a lot more on the content, and then you tend to see the references as correct, but then you find that 3 chapters in, you're now looking at the referencing and you're thinking, but no, this shouldn't be like this because I was more focused on the content, especially with the honors group where they only have a year to finish. I tend to place a lot more emphasis on the actual content. And then when I go back in different phases of my supervision to look at, okay, now let's look at your references, let's look at where you got this information from. It does tend to drag the process a little bit. And it's also difficult trying to explain at times I struggle to explain what I already know to somebody else. And this is why I wanted to join the session so that I can say to my students, please could you go here? This is where you can actually receive a bit more comprehensive information with regards to referencing, editing, and how you can actually start to look at your work in a different lens. Because we are struggling with the gap between undergrad and postgrad. A lot of the times you see it seems as if they've never done research before. Thank you.
Yes, Gina.
Ms. Novo, thank you so much. And I think that this is something that we just have to be sort of honest and open about, is that very often in undergrad, we are not giving students writing assignments. We are giving them respond to multiple choice questions or short questions, and not having them write extended bits of writing where they have to really make a narrative, and that narrative has to fit into the academic writing convention, in this case APA. And also then, with the paraphrasing, with the in-text referencing and all of that. I suggest that uh, after this session, like if anyone else has these sort of concerns or like just hopes that this is something they want to embed in their curriculum, speak to us. Angelo and I are here, and we can work out how to support you more directly within your curriculum, but also for the wider university, okay? Because there are 32,000 students. There's 4 of us and 9 of Sonja. So it becomes quite the task. So if we can be more intentional and specific with what we want to do, if we do it for your group, then we could maybe open it up to several other groups who have similar challenges. Okay. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Yeah, what I also want to say, yes, definitely we have to reach out to the whole of the university. Um, I in the beginning of the year, and that was also the first time I was also asked to go to, and again, to the pharmacy students for the orientation week. In other words, right there in February, they asked me to come in and to just speak to their students. So yes, orientations, like Gina said, literally just tell us what do you need, what is your specifics. I do find a lot of value with specific groups, and yes, we will always reach out to the larger university group as well. But when you want us to focus only on, so I've done quite a couple of these types of workshops, and there's a lot of value in that because and this we are moving a little bit away from the topic. I will go back. I foresee actually that the day of the essay is come and gone because of AI that's come into play, and we cannot actually assess students anymore, and we're not going to win the fight. Yeah. So I think there is going to be a different approach assessment wise and how we're going to assess students, because at this stage we are assessing AI. That's what we're actually doing. But besides that, where does it leave us then, where you go into postgrads and there was nothing written before? So I think it's just going to get continuously, difficult. And then when students want to go into postgrad studies, they've got no idea what to do and how to do it, and whether they have used or have written essays and so on. And many of our faculties don't write essays. The students don't write essays. So, for instance, like the pharmacy students, and then all of us, the IT students. And I've got a couple of workshops that I have to do for IT students, and they just have no clue how to do these things in the fourth year. But okay, you know where to find us, and then I'm going to move on from here. All right. So that is on paraphrasing. So obviously, the other step where we have to move towards avoiding plagiarism is obviously then the referencing part, where we're going to use a very specific referencing style, and in this case, APA 7th edition. So obviously, in-text references are just brief information about the source, only the surname, no initials, no names, no surnames, surnames or titles at all, and the date, and then obviously the page number for direct quotes. The reference list gives all the information of the specific source and where to find it, obviously with a URL link maybe, and you can access the information. So consistency is the key. If you use referencing tools and it's not APA 7th edition yet, you have to then, most of the differences are actually in the reference list. So it will literally be more a case of and the structure. But if we're dealing with, say, for instance, first year education students that's just entering the academic sphere where they're writing assignments, there isn't a need yet for adhering to the structure that's very, very specific in APA. In postgrad level, yes, definitely. But then most of the differences are actually in the reference list. Okay. Just briefly touching on, because it's often something that students, and the thing is, the problem is we are familiar with referencing systems. We are marking scripts all the time, so we don't see these questions, and then students ask me this question they don't realize, and that's why I put these slides often in as well, because it's students that ask these questions, and I never thought of it. So students often ask, but if it's my own knowledge, why do I need to reference it? And then it is we have to direct the students and explain to them then specifically what would you regard as your own knowledge? Because if you're in an academic sphere, very little would be your own knowledge when you came into and you started your academic journey. So, for instance, you're a second year student now, all that knowledge that you learned right from the start in February 2023, it's now part of your knowledge base, and it doesn't feel like it's somebody else's knowledge now. It feels like it's your knowledge, right? So what is very important is that you do understand that knowledge was not yours before February 2023. It became your knowledge then through attending lectures, through reading, researching, and so on. In other words, there was a source. So it's very unlikely that it will ever be your own knowledge in academics. You are using sources. You are listening to content. You are getting that information from a source. You need to acknowledge that source. So I would rather say then at all times, you need to reference your material. It's hardly, the other sort of scenario where we would say you don't need to reference is it's common knowledge, but it's very unlikely also. Like common knowledge is it's today, the 2nd of September, Monday, and so on, or 2024. But I mean, it's not often that you would get type of information that you will write that. So all in all, you need to acknowledge your sources. Don't even question it. Just acknowledge and reference. I'm not going to play this video now, but it provides also differences between 6th edition and 7th edition that you can access later on as well. Then it brings me to the two resources that I want to provide you with or leave you with. Then we've got a couple of minutes still. We will touch on the referencing still, but these two links are the only two sources that you would need for APA 7th edition. The first source is obviously you as a registered student of NMU. You have free access to this, and it's through the library specifically. And the second one, I think it's what our source is based on in any case, or our this link is based on at the NMU, is this Purdue University's writing lab, online writing lab. And this is a wonderful source. If you go into the source, there's nothing that you would ever need regarding referencing. I just want to access this link for now, where I can show you then what it looks like. So it is based on the 7th edition. However, there is, you can't see it now, but once you go into or you access it from the library, you will see used to be an option. Oh, I see. Yeah, there's also the changes to 6 to 7, but there used to be a built-in option if you still use the 6th edition to access that rather. I don't know if that's still available, to be very honest. But anyways, this is based on this manual that was published in 2019 when it changed. You can actually access these slides. It's a free source as well, and you will never ever have to use anything else. So if you can see, when you click or you just hover over here, this little icon there, you can see all the different types of sources. Say, for instance, if you want to use theses or legislation, how do you reference it in APA, audiovisual presentations, conference material, newspapers, books, ebooks, journal articles. So you can just click on that. It will open up. There's a slide on explaining it. You will see how it explains literally what you have to do to reference, for instance, at some form of a journal article. Gives you an example with the reference list, with the indentation there. And then it opens up into this valuable source where it gives you examples of how to in-text reference, the two ways of in-text referencing, and then also in the reference list with the indentation there. Different types of journals, obviously, whether it's a printed journal, for 1 author, 2 authors, 3 to 20 authors, 21 and more authors, with a DOI, whether it's in a database with no DOI, all kinds of different things that you can use. Books, ebooks. Ebook can be tricky sometimes to reference. Here's a book, for instance, a printed book that you find, or a textbook, for instance, single author, 2 authors, 3 or more authors, or 20 authors, reference work, editors. Textbooks often have editors, chapter from a book. So often textbook also, the chapters are written by different authors, translators, multiple works from one source, secondary sources, and so forth. Right. So I just want to go back quickly. So that is just a very, very valuable source. I'm not going to click on the second one, but it is a really, really rich source that you will really find beneficial. Then going into the actual referencing. So what is important is to know that there are 2 ways that you can in-text reference. It's either where you paraphrase the sentence and you put the reference at the end, or a direct quote then specifically, yeah, where you have to, with direct quote, you have to have a page number. And in APA, we use this format. So if the reference is at the end of the sentence, and the reference is, the whole reference is inside the brackets, you use obviously the surname of the author, comma, the date, comma, P, full stop, and the page number, close the brackets, and the full stop after the closing bracket, not before, after. Otherwise, there's confusion. Where does this reference fit in? Where does it belong? The person marking or looking at your draft doesn't know specifically, does it belong to the next sentence or the previous or whatever. Or it could be a reference where you take the author outside of the brackets and you make it part of the sentence. We call it a narrative reference. In this case, it is a direct quote. You put Smith as the surname outside the brackets, the date inside the brackets, the direct quote, and with APA, we put the page number after where the quote ends, with inside the brackets alone on its own, P, and the page number to show that's the page number. That is only for direct quotes though. The previous one where the reference is all inside the bracket is where the direct quote is then at the end. How can I say? In other words, you haven't used Smith as part of the sentence, you use the direct quote and then it includes the page number there as well. In the reference list, we obviously list surname first, comma, note the punctuation, the initial, full stop, the date in brackets for APA. Then obviously the book's name in italics. So all books, journals, things, the names of material, we will always put in italics. So the difference with 7th edition is that we only provide the publisher now and not the place of publishing. In 6th edition, you still had to give the place of publishing. So that has fallen away. You only provide the publisher. So this is all that you have to provide for a book. 2 authors, we use the ampersand in APA, this curly thingy that's actually referring to and, inside the brackets. However, when you use a narrative in text where you, or reference, where you use the authors outside the brackets and part of the sentence, you cannot use the ampersand. It has to be and, because the ampersand is an abbreviation and we don't use ever abbreviations in academic material. Date in brackets, this would be a paraphrase then. The reference list, you have to state both authors at all times. In-text reference and in the reference list. Obviously the date in brackets, the italics of the text, the book's name, and then the publishing house afterwards. If it's an edition, you have to state what edition. We never state it's a first edition, but from second edition, you have to state it's second edition, whatever edition it is. So that would be how you would do it if there's an edition involved. Then for 3 or more authors in APA 7th edition, you can use et al., which means and others, from the beginning. So that is another difference from 6th edition to 7th edition. So if there's 3 or more authors up to 20, you may use et al. From the first time that you refer to them, but then in the reference list, you have to provide all the sources surnames. Okay, so you can't use et al. In the reference list. And then that is why you can use et al. Here, because there is a full entry then in the reference list. So that would be then, for instance, Smith et al. With a date inside the brackets, or with a page number with a direct quote, or Smith et al. As part of the sentence, only the date in brackets, the direct quote, and the page number right at the end. And the reference list you provide, Gina, I'll be with you now. I just want to conclude with this. All your authors with an ampersand, we use the ampersand in the reference list as well in APA. Doing research, Phillips is the publishing house, and so on. And then if there's editors, you show that they are the editors of the book. Yes, Gina.
Thank you. This is great. This is also one of the most frequently requested clarifications about referencing. Like the number of authors and how to cite that. Just go back to, please, so that I can just like address something. So in that first line in text where you say Smith, 2010, then we got P full stop, and then there's a space. If you go down, that space isn't consistently being reflected here, because there's somewhere there's a space and somewhere there's not a space. If you look at authors 3 or more, in the second line there, P dot 22.
Okay, I see that.
So
yes.
Is it with a space or without a space? Because
with
we did speak about the consistency.
With a space there.
Okay.
It has to be, it has to be the space. But
Okay.
Again, consistency would be the key. Sorry about that. I will fix it. I will just have to find my PowerPoint has just disappeared from my computer. I don't know where it is. But yes, obviously there must be a space there.
Thank you.
We can actually, let me just go back. Let's go use our source. Let's just see here quickly. Yeah, it shows the space here. As you can see, there is a space. So yes, that must be a space before the page number.
If you go back to that source, Sonja, just so that you see, because I don't think this is you. I think this is from there. If you look at the first one, there with book 3 to 20 authors, right there where you are, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? So you see page .135.
Yeah.
And then you go down to the next paragraph, and then there's P, and there's no space. So it's coming from here. So I never expect you to be inconsistent, by the way. So
it is possible, when I type and stuff. But if you can see, the norm is that they put spaces. However, to be very honest, I don't think maybe that would be the gravest of things that you can do, but again, then there must be consistency with this type of thing. But I would just put a space there. I think that is the correct version. Okay, all right. Then obviously moving on to the other type of thing that we're consistently being asked about is I cannot find the author or the date of the information. So what must I do? So that brings me with the topic of credible information. So as an academic, you need to at all times make sure that your information is credible. So when we deal with academic content, you always have to first go to, so if you get a topic, don't go to Google. Try and to unlearn that. Because in our personal lives, yes, what do? I watch literally something on Netflix and I go and Google it. So our lives is based on Google, but try and avoid it as far as possible. That is not your first port of call. Your first port of call would be to go then, if you want to use Google Scholar, or you use your databases. However, there is information on the internet that we would regard as credible. For instance, organizations like the World Health Organization, they publish articles without authors specifically, or government sites like the Department of Justice or the Department of Basic Education. So any site that ends on gov, edu, ac, so university sites, government sites, and then organizations, we would regard as credible or publishing credible content. They might, like the government organizations, university sites, organizations like World Health Organization, often published without authors. So what do we do then? Then you use the organization's name. If it's the Department of Health, you would use that as your reference, your index reference then. And that is what you will start off your reference entry in the reference list as well. So in this case, World Health Organization, remember, we do not use abbreviations. So if you use World Health Organization, for instance, put the WHO in brackets, then the second time you can refer to WHO and the date then specifically there. The reference list, yeah, and and the first example here, World Health Organization 26, the dangers of smoking, and the URL. So what has also changed with 7th edition, you only provide the URL, you don't provide, like in Harvard, we would say online, available at, and access date. Access date has fallen away completely as well with APA 7th edition. And here we only provide the URL. You don't have to give all the other information. So going back to internet information, blogs, Wikipedia, Britannica.com, most of their content we would not consider as credible content. Blogs, definitely not. Wikipedia, definitely not. ChatGPT would fall under this. It's not credible content. I get often asked, but can I use it as a source? No, you cannot. It's not credible. It's like actually worse than Wikipedia, because ChatGPT just takes information, put it together just to look nice and beautiful, and so there might be credible content or true content there, but you cannot trust the information. That is the problem with it. So that is the reason why we cannot use it as credible content. On that, I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of credibility and so on. So I've just pre-searched here. My topic here was generative AI in education. So I found this journal article on unlocking the power of ChatGPT on Google Scholar actually. But this is a journal article. As you can see, there's references, these blue marked things. We can see the authors very clearly. There's a DOI. As soon as journal article has a DOI, we can say it is a credible or source. Let's just see. At Sage Journals, you can, whatever, we can now still look at. There's an abstract, so the structure, actually, we can see it's credible content. And then obviously the referencing that's attached to it. You can see this is based on evidence. However, we're going to go to this website. I don't know whether it's a blog or whatever, but firstly, this beautiful little colorful picture. It's a giveaway already. There is an author involved here, a recent date. However, when we look at the content, There's absolutely nothing is based here on evidence. There's no form of referencing attached to it. This is not credible content. I'm just also going to, I've worked extensively now with this type of thing in a recent module. I can tell you now already, this was generated by ChatGPT, this information that this blog or whatever is providing. You can go and type this in and you will find exactly the same content. So, which means this is not credible content. This is. So there is a difference. You can see it clearly if you are just going to go and look for proper information. Right. Sorry, I'm just doing a lot of things here. I'm not going to go into this. We are running out of time. We're at 2:30 already. There's a little bit of guidance on chapters in books, on secondary information, journal articles, internet sources, if you want to use internet sources. Just on that, when it comes to in-text referencing, all your sources, when there's an author, will look exactly the same in the text. The difference is in the reference list. Reference list in APA must be on a separate page. You put references as your heading and centered right on the top. Multiple works will all fall, or different types, all the different types of sources will go in one reference list. Spaces in between, use the ampersand instead of the AND before the last author. Use capital letters very, very sparingly, only literally for, the beginning of the title, the first word, or when there's a name. Italics for books, journal names, and so on. And then obviously with a reference list, this is what I actually got from the NMU's libraries, this example. So the second line of the APA reference list is always indented. That is something that you just need to note with referencing as well. Otherwise, you can see all alphabetical order. There's the department, source, everything, all different sources in one list. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. Another, just before we're going to end off this, it's a very important part, and it's what I often see mistakes being made, is just how to integrate your sources into your paragraph. Right in the left-hand side, a bad example of referencing would be just to put your reference. Don't underline your references, please. It's just to show where the reference is. It's to write a whole paragraph and then you put your reference right in the bottom. That is not proper referencing, yeah. It's a bad example of academic practice here. So your references need to be embedded into your paragraph. The middle center paragraph, your example, would be a better example. In this case, it would be why a student would put only a reference at the end of a paragraph would be there's only one source used. And now they feel, okay, well, I just need to show it at the end of the paragraph. This reference is only for the last sentence. The rest is then plagiarized. Better would be to integrate in a couple of times inside the paragraph if it's one source. But the best would be, like right in the end, would be then to integrate all your sources or different types of sources into your paragraph. In other words, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sources to provide evidence for this statement that was made here, or the claim that was made right in the beginning of the paragraph. So that would be the best example. That will avoid the feeling that you would get maybe just to put one reference at the end of your paragraph. That is best academic practice, that you provide, that you show that you've researched well, and that you can provide evidence for your statement, not only from one source. So that would be the best example. Just on this, the database link where you can access EBSCO, Sabinet, Eric, Emerald, whatever you want to use as for credible sources, there's a link for that. And then obviously This is available. The slides will be available in the chat. I will post this in the chat right afterwards. The link here is what is in the chat at the moment as well. If you want to make use of the Academic Literacies Writing Programme, you click on that link, you submit you submit your draft and you will get feedback, what, like Gina said right in the beginning, what the literacies program does and how drafts are being responded to. This link is also in the chat. Please provide feedback on the session. It is really, really important for us to get some feedback on how to improve, maybe what we can include in these workshops. Yes, and that's it from me. So please let me just look at, there is the link to the feedback form. Please guys, just to also give that.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. I just sent that, but we've got the longer just like feedback survey, and it's going to take you 3 minutes, I promise you. For any participants, what the survey does help us to do is to see whether or not we've done what we said we would do and how it landed basically with you. So this helps us to secure our funding for next year and the years ahead for other students. So please respond for us. I can see just on the poly there. Thank you. And if you've got any questions or any just something that you want to say at the end of the session as we're about to stop, I want to say thank you to Sonja and to Angelo for being here. Sonja, this is always helpful, and we'll look ahead at doing this for some specific groups, of course, but also for the wider community, because we can see that this is helpful and useful. So thank you, Sonja. Any final comments from anyone?
Thank you,
Yes,
Gino.
Gino.
Sorry,
Yes,
Angelo.
thank you, colleagues. I also posted our AI policy in the chat, so the students are more than welcome to download a policy with regards to AI. I think that is a very useful tool. And the other thing is also in terms of postgraduate support. Now I know our research division, they usually offer workshops for students with regards to postgraduate support.
That's a great point, Angelo. And yes, try to attend that. Normally, people who attend those are master students who are doing a research-based degree because they have to write. Okay. I would suggest if you are on undergraduate as well, that you come to us and we can set you up in advance so that by the time you get there, you're not trying to figure out like how to reference and all of these things. So what we're doing is we're creating a pathway for academic success by laying out all of these support facilities here. We don't say services because if you don't choose to come here, we don't take your money and say like, well, you paid for this, but you didn't attend. What we are here to do is to be a support facility. And we hope that you take that to heart and you tell other people about this, right? So was this useful? Please, I put that the link to the survey, you'll see their forms, right? That's going to get us funding or not, depending on like how we do. So we really need your honest and sincere feedback and any comments you have. Like, were the presenters okay? Did we facilitate this according to what you needed? Do you need something else? Because we do this a lot, right? And we want to be here and relevant. So any final comments from Sonja? And then we can say goodbye. From my side, I'm very proud of what we've done. And thank you, Sonja, again.
Thank you, Gino. Thank you also for your help. You and Angelo, thank you very much for that. And thank you, students and everybody else, not necessarily students. But thank you very much for attending. If there's any questions, please ask them, put them in the Teams chat, even afterwards. You know, we do see them, you know, when where we get notifications. I'd rather put it like that. We can always answer a question in the chat here as well. Just note that tomorrow night we will have exactly the same session. So if you have other types of questions, if you have more questions, or you have questions that wasn't answered now, please attend, even if we just focus maybe tomorrow night on specifics. If there's specific issues that we can attend to, maybe beforehand ask them. Yeah, and if it's something that I need to prepare for, or something like that I would know in advance, or just if you're more than welcome to join. Otherwise, it will be just a double up tomorrow night. But thank you very much for everyone, and thank you, Gina and Angelo. Really appreciate your help and your inputs.
Well done, everyone, and congratulations to everyone for turning up, because that's the first step of getting to the next step, right? You need to show up.
Absolutely.
So that, well done. Thanks, everyone, and have
Thank
a
you, guys.
wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Sonja, don't forget to stop the recording.
Yeah, sorry. I have to.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm just, oh my word, I'm
Bye.
just uploading quickly the slides. Okay, I've stopped it.
The slides